Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this episode we will talk about the problems Guardiola and Manchester City have been facing on the field lately and explain how Emery and Aston Villa exploited these weaknesses of Manchester City. Last year's treble winner had a good start to the season, although missing some key players due to injury. However, as they started to play against tougher teams of the English Premier League that were brave enough to play more aggressively against them, we started to see some problems. In addition to that, we can say some key players like Ruben Dias and Erling Haaland are not in their top form. As a result, City couldn't win their last 4 league games, something for the first time since Guardiola's first season at City 7 years ago, and at their last game against Aston Villa, Emery's team completely outclassed Manchester City both tactically and physically, and made Guardiola admit that they have been terribly struggling and they need some serious changes. If we consider these last 4 games, for Chelsea, we thought it was a bump on the road, an off day sort of. Against Liverpool, there were a few problems that could be recognized and were repeating from the Chelsea game, but Bernardo Silva's excellent performance at left half space and Liverpool's own structural problems when City was in possession sort of made me think, okay, maybe it was just another unlucky day. The way Liverpool defended and pressed against City was very awkward, putting McAllister, Trent and Matip in a very difficult position. And Bernardo with his positional game really maximized the problem for them. However, while City were flowing through the left side, the right side of the team was completely ineffective. Mainly because Alvarez played as the right interior and the fact that his experience and skill set are not as suitable as Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne or İlkay Gündoğan to play this interior role. He shows some good performances at this position, especially when opponents preferred to be more passive and waiting City at the lower blocks. He was excellent, especially inside the box, when it came to finding the space behind Haaland or creating space for his teammates with his movement. However, when opponents placed their blocks higher, Alvarez damaged the team's construction. This was already clear against Liverpool, but against Tottenham it was even more clear. Yes, City created many chances against Tottenham, but most of them came as a result of their almost man-to-man high press. They were aggressive, especially in the first half, while Spurs were a bit more hesitant naturally due to the injuries and players that were forced to play out of their natural positions. And almost all dangerous situations came for City from direct attacks. Only in the second goal, we saw a little bit of ball circulation when Tottenham momentarily stayed a bit too passive and waited at low block. And as we mentioned, Alvarez could punish in these situations in the box with his excellent movement and he made the assist there. However, except for that position and direct attacks, City were not giving good signals in possession. They were struggling to realize their most common patterns. Especially, this was very obvious when it came to their switch plays, which is their butter and bread under normal conditions. In this game, Guardiola switched Alvarez and Bernardo's positions, maybe to reignite the fire at the right flank to take more advantage of Foden, but this limited the activity on both sides eventually. What made this 3-2-2-3 so superior against back fours was the width, the positioning of the front five, and the ability to switch the play when an advantage occurred at the opposite flank last season. A little bit due to fullbacks playing as centre backs, with the extensive injury list of course, Spurs back four was extremely narrow and shuffling a bit too much on game day. There were little drop-offs from midfielders and wingers, and this gave many chances for City to use their switch plays to create 2v1s at the opposite flank. But they couldn't make it work. Here, Alvarez is not filling the left half space and Doku cannot find an advantageous situation to progress the ball from the switch. Here, in the second one, from the opposite flank, this time players at the left flank couldn't find Bernardo Silva or Foden, while Bernardo and Foden forced for possible advantageous situations at their flank. In addition to that, when Spurs pressed high, City struggled in build-up again, suffered from hasty decisions. Especially we saw that very clearly at Spurs' second equalizer came as a result when Alvarez tried to play unnecessarily direct instead of holding the ball while City was building from the back. And we came to the Aston Villa game. Of course, Unai Emery and his coaching staff were very aware of these weaknesses City had and planned accordingly. For the City, what made the day even worse was the suspension of Rodri and Grealish, two very important figures to offer the team more calmness and allow a bit more chance for ball retention. Guardiola's box midfield without Rodri was also surprising. Alvarez, who has been struggling in interior role against aggressive opponents, Luis, who is an extremely intelligent and promising player but technically and physically not at a very high level yet to apply his decisions as an action very quickly. And again, when he plays against aggressive opponents that limits time for him to take action, he struggles and he struggled. Akanji, who is a center back, and Stones, who just returned from his injury. Bernardo, who is the only natural interior in the team, was at the right wing, and Foden, who can be the most similar player to Kevin De Bruyne in the squad, was at the left wing. Gündoğan last year could be considered as this complete midfielder when the team needed support during build-up. He became the deep-lying playmaker. When City tried creating threat, he became the attacking midfielder at the half spaces. He was one of the key players to realize Guardiola's philosophy, the main enabler for the team to travel together. But now Gündoğan's role was sort of split between Akanji, a defender, and Alvarez, a striker. And that naturally limited the fluidity, created a huge space between two lines of this box midfield. And on top of all these problems, it was Emery's plan that amplified the weaknesses of City's and limited all their key advantages. The mid-block press Aston Villa applied was probably the best mid-block I have ever seen. Constant communication and incredible concentration improved the strength of the block, but let's also appreciate the plan. Villa wanted City to be far away from Bernardo Silva and forced them to play towards left side in the first half. With the high press, they were showing City which direction they should go. There were many moments, especially in the first half, City struggled in building the game towards this side, with Alvarez couldn't provide the support and Akanji couldn't offer the ball retention needed. In situations when Villa dropped to mid-block, they stayed very compact with a very high defensive line. They preferred an asymmetric structure here, Watkins and Tielemans at the first line of pressure, Konsa on Foden, McKean and Bailey closing passing angles from inside to outside. The more interesting part starts now. Diego Carlos marked Haaland tightly, even that means there was a huge space at the left inner corridor. Kamara again marked Alvarez tightly, knowing Alvarez is not the master to use this space during progression. They took this risk, and while leaving the space there, also they could keep numerical advantage at the other side of the pitch. Under normal conditions, Pau Torres is the +1 both at the back line, close to Haaland and aware of his in-behind runs, and also +1 at the left side of Villa defense, in case there are any attempts to overload the area with overlapping Walker, pushing Stones and Bernardo using these movements to create extra space. If somebody pushes to half space, then Pau Torres leaves Haaland for 1v1 with Carlos and closes the space. If Douglas Luiz jumps on Stones, then he controls Lewis. It was an amazing performance from him, which eventually completely isolated Bernardo Silva from the game in the first half, the only player who could offer control for Guardiola's team. In possession, Aston Villa forced City to have 1v1 matching, with McKean and Tielemans moving in the half spaces up and down. Once Stones and Akanji followed them, Bailey and Watkins attacked the space behind them. And the backside, meanwhile, were excellent in first to attract the pressure and then in seeing and finding these players at the upper pitch. This helped them to bypass this high press and create chances in the first half. At the halftime, Guardiola made the necessary change and pulled Bernardo Silva to more central zones. He started to play a free role, joining the build-ups and creating overloads at opposite half space. He was totally isolated in the first half, made only 19 touches, but in the first 15 minutes of the second half, he already made 21 touches. With Stones also joining and helping his positional game, City finally started traveling as a unit, gained a little bit more control in the game and pushed Aston Villa to lower blocks. At those moments, with Bernardo's and Stones' activity, City could hold the ball at the right side, but Villa passed those moments by being extra cautious, with either McKean or Douglas Luiz dropping to the back line and making a line of even 6. After this period, Villa increased their physicality and aggression again. In the first half of the game, it was their mid-block that amazed me. In the second half, it was their concentration and determination with their counter-press and ball recoveries. Once they pushed City to their half, they really prisoned them there between especially 60th and 70th minute, as it can be seen from the touch map for this period. They were so compact with the ball as well. Torres and Konsa staying so high, McKean and Tielemans playing very narrow. They just kept the ball at City's half for almost 10 minutes. These were the moments City really looked for Rodri. That calmness was not offered by Akanji and the other midfielders, and Guardiola had to intervene again with substitutions and had Kovacic and Nunes. This helped City greatly. They could finally break the pressure, held possession, and started pushing Aston Villa to lower blocks again. These were the moments finally City started to play a bit more like City, tried to switch plays, attacked half spaces. However, then the only lucky moment for Villa arrived. The whole game, Aston Villa were the unlucky team and couldn't get the reward for their incredible efforts, but also with Oscar Bob being a little green in that situation, City couldn't recover the ball before Aston Villa's goal, and Bailey's dribble eventually ended up with his shot with his opposite foot, which bounced to Ruben Dias and then left Ederson no chance at the goal. Eventually Villa thoroughly deserved to win. But the game showed what City needs against opponents who tends to be more aggressive. They need more central midfielders, which is the essence of Guardiola's game since he started his career at Barcelona. Injury crisis, tough opponents, dance fixture, individual form problems all came one after another, but Guardiola is the coach who has been dreaming of having 11 midfielders on the pitch. His substitutions and tweaks against Villa showed that he was also agreeing with this. As Cruyff said, mistakes are the price to pay for excellence. City made some mistakes in the last few weeks, and we all know that it is that time of the year again for them to remember the basics. But we all know Guardiola is the master of these situations, and he will come up with another correct diagnosis and prognosis. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked the video, please don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to my channel. Until next time.